Yeah, that was weird. Weird.
Well, I tend to have that effect on things.
You're breaking our tape machine here, Leland.
I'm
Yeah.
so sorry about that. So where are you guys located?
I'm in Montreal.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, we're in Montreal. Where are you at today? Are you in the West
I'm
Coast?
in
Or?
Los Angeles, Pasadena, actually.
Hello, Pasadena, the home of Van Halen.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's
Yeah.
a lot of people that were from around here. Joe Zawinul lived in Pasadena. There's a whole bunch of different artists have been in this area over the years. And I came in as a youngster, and I'm going out as an old fart.
Wow. So you never left. You always stayed in Pasadena.
Well, I've been here since '73, so
you never left.
basically, I'm a long hauler.
Nice.
And what I like about the whole Pasadena connection is that their first single was actually called The Immediate Family of Leland's new band is called Fair Warning. So
Van Halen reference.
there you go.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Was it a Van Halen reference, or is it just sort of, oh, I didn't think of that?
It's a little of everything.
Right.
I'm gonna see if I can get rid of this weird background here.
No, you look good. You look like God, actually.
Yeah.
You know how much responsibility that is that I really don't want to take on. It's like Carlos Vega and I, every time back in the days with James Taylor, we would walk off stage, man, just play a great show. And we'd look at each other as we got on the bus and go from God to Cod.
So
Yeah, everybody's basking in the show and everything. And we're sitting there going, what do you want to watch on TV? We got some VHSs here. So back in those days, probably Betamaxes. It's
Jeez. What were you watching? Gilligan's Island and Three's Company, or?
If we were lucky, we would get something like that. But
Nice.
Oh, we
I
love
think
you.
one of the greatest gifts to touring was when they finally got internet on buses.
Yeah.
Yeah. No
Really,
kidding.
it was a lifesaver because I hardly ever sleep on a bus. So, when everybody else would be sawing logs, at least at this point, I can be sitting up and, perusing the internet and causing all kinds of grief for the guys when they wake up and find out things I've posted about them.
You see, it's always best to post that stuff at night when they, at least it can live online for 8 hours before they say, take it down. Take it.
Absolutely. It's like they get what they pay for kind of moment.
Do you still like the bus life, or are you just kind of like,
It kind of depends on the tour. Sometimes it can be really grueling. Like when we're doing Lyle Lovett, we've got 16 guys out on the road on 2 buses. So it gets a little bit funky in there, dare I say. And those are usually summer tours where we have to wear suits, and we sometimes do like 15 shows in a row. So you can't get any dry cleaning done or anything. So the bus can get kind of ripe.
ouch.
Damn.
But no, I love it. I love it.
That's not good living. So before we get into the immediate family and the new record, your name first came to my attention back in 1985 because at that time, No Jacket Required was essential listening. I mean, that album is perfection. It's just great. And now, of course, you do the YouTube thing. Let me just quickly ask you about No Jacket Required. And I've seen Phil Collins with the new Genesis reunion, and it sort of brings a tear to my eye. I mean, he's out there and he's singing, but he's in the wheelchair, and he was one of my heroes back in the day. Just quickly talk to me about Phil, the fact that he's out there doing it, which I love, because he's not feeling sorry for himself. He's not sleeping in bed all day. He's gonna go do it, and I love that.
Yeah.
Just talk to me about working with Phil, and then we'll talk about the immediate family.
Okay. The first time I worked with Phil was actually on a Lee Ritenour record, where Lee called both of us to play on 1 or 2 tracks on this album, and I was aware of Phil from Genesis and Brand X. I knew who he was, and he knew me through this was probably around 1981 or something like that. And we hit it off immediately, and he asked me if I would do his album and tour, which was going to be what the hell was the name of the first thing he did? Geez,
Was it Face Value?
Yeah, face
Yeah.
value.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't thought about that one. And I said that at that point I was committed to James Taylor at that point, and our schedules wouldn't line up. But I said, man, I would love to work with you more. So, let's try next time. And he called me in 1984 and asked me to come to London and do the No Jacket Required tour. And a whole bunch of things lined up then. I remember we were staying at the Royal Garden Hotel in Kensington, and the first morning we were cutting. Studio was a ways from there, but we were staying in this hotel. And I get on the elevator. I got my gig bag, go down one floor. This guy gets in the elevator with his gig bag, and we look at each other. And I go, "Oh, hi, what are you doing in town?" He goes, "I'm here working with Phil Collins." He said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I'm here working with Phil Collins." And he goes, "Well, hi, and my name's Daryl." And I go, "Hi, my name's Lee." And I go, "So where are you from?" He goes, "Milwaukee." And he goes, "Where are you from?" I go, "Milwaukee," because I was born in Milwaukee. I mean, it was like the weirdest connection.
What?
And Townhouse Studios was a couple of miles away, and we ended up walking to the studio every day to work. It was, to me, thrilling when we got in. That album to me is such a wonderful album. And the thing that was interesting is, like, people that Phil Collins drum sound and all that, you would think like the room where they were recording was this big cavernous room. Yeah. It was this little tiny ass room with one stone wall in it. There was a couple of road cases in there. So much of it was really the genius of Hugh Padgham engineering that made that happen. And the thing that was interesting was when we hit the road to the following year, we cut it in 84, and then the No Jacket tour was in 85.
Right.
When it started, Phil was still just the drummer from Genesis. I mean, he didn't have a high profile. And all of a sudden, Sussudio came out. And next thing you know, you could not go into a supermarket or an elevator or anywhere without hearing Sussudio playing. Yeah. And I remember David Frank, that the original track on the album is all synths. There's hardly anybody involved in that. He programmed all these synths, and this was back kind of analog synth days. And I remember the first time we sat and listened to it, I just looked at Phil and I said, "You really painted us into a corner. How are we going to reproduce this live?" And we ended up working it out and doing it live, and it's been a staple of his touring ever since. But the tour took a complete 180 once that record came out, because it was not going to be that big of a tour. And all of a sudden we went from like theaters to arenas overnight. Yep. And
wow.
And he became both the darling of the industry and the target of the industry, because
still a darling to me, I gotta say.
I'll tell you,
but why did he become a target, though?
He became a target to the press primarily, because the press generally despised anybody that becomes successful. They want to look at the dark side, so they would say, "Oh, he's the Cabbage Patch Kid of rock," and they would denigrate things. And Phil is the kind of guy that would read reviews, and I would be so pissed off. I go, "Look, we played for 20,000 people last night. They were going crazy. We could still be playing today if they had their way. Yet this guy writes a rag review, and you think the show wasn't good." I said, "The review is the audience. It's not the reviewer, because they probably got in free half the time. They've got songs wrong that they're saying what the set list was, and they really didn't stay, so they don't know what it is." So that's been an issue forever, where at this point now he's fragile, and he's one of the elder statesmen of rock, so they're being far kinder to him.
But,
but let me just say this, Leland. In terms of reviews, okay, there was a show in Montreal years ago, and I used to work all the shows, and it was Dio and Motorhead and somebody else, and the reviewer was downstairs in the press gallery next to me, eating a hot dog and having all kinds of stuff going on while the opening band was playing. And in the Gazette the next day, it said, "Queensryche were horrible, they were terrible, they sucked, it was loud, it was cacophonous." And it was like, right, except the band that played first was called Entombed, not Queensryche. You might have known that had you been actually in the venue and not backstage. And he wrote like a whole thing. I was just like, oh my God. So yeah.
Journalists.
Yeah, don't.
We did, when we did the James Taylor, Carole King Troubadour reunion tour, we played the Hollywood Bowl, and the review was one of the most scathing reviews I've ever been seen, where they were saying these people are way too old to be doing this. And there was such an outcry of people that read that review that were at the show, who all were saying this is the best show we've ever seen and stuff. And they really wanted to get whoever wrote the review fired at that point, because they said it's obvious they were not at the show, and everything they said was bullshit.
Yeah.
So, but to get back to Phil, so Phil's been a remarkable artist to work with all these decades. And when we did the first Final Farewell tour in 2004, we really thought that was going to be the end of it. So we were all kind of surprised when he called a couple of years ago and we did the Not Dead Yet tour. But because he's been through, he had some really bad surgeries that damaged his leg and his hands for playing. I mean, he can't really hold sticks anymore. His mind can play drums, but his body can't play drums. And the beauty of that tour, and now the Genesis tour, is the fact that his son Nicholas is the drummer in the group. And Nick is, if there was ever a gene transference from father to son, it's there, because Nick was a badass drummer when he was 4 years old.
Right.
It's not like he got this gig because daddy's Phil Collins. He got it because he earned it. And and the videos I'm seeing of the Genesis tour that's going on right now, he is absolutely killing it.
Yeah. And on the Not Dead Yet tour, which I saw in Montreal, it was one of the greatest nights of show I've ever seen. And I've seen over 1,000 shows. It was just spot on. And people went, oh, but he's sitting down. And I went, I don't give a He was great. Yeah. And that show was great. And his son was great.
Yeah, he's sitting because he has, he's got this drop foot condition. So, I mean, it's really hard for him to be stable, stand up. So, I mean, he would stand like for in the air, do a couple of moments.
Right.
But, he's sitting on a chair, but the people are hearing the songs they want to hear.
That's it.
At that point. And he's still singing credibly. It's not young Phil. It's not the guy who, if they're going to go there expecting to see the guy running around the stage like he was in the 80s and 90s and all that, then they shouldn't have, bought tickets to it. But the fact that he's giving them the best show he can possibly muster up, both visually puts the best band together that he can. The production is as good as it gets.
Spot on.
And his heart is there. And so, it's great. Now I'm really great to see, like I was just FaceTiming with Daryl Sturmer yesterday. They're in Leeds now. I think they're playing tonight. They had a day off yesterday, but we're talking about it. And he said, man, the crowds have been just great. They're so just loving the fact that, number one, they're getting to see Mike and Tony too. I mean, Genesis means a great deal to people. And both of those guys are still quite ambulatory and in great shape. So it breaks my heart to see Phil sitting, only because I've been with him since he was a human dynamo, like a whirling dervish, Tasmanian devil. And he also was probably one of the, as I look at my career, one of the greatest gifts I've had is to play with the greatest musicians in the world. And when it comes to the drummer's seat, he's way up there. I mean, a lot of people don't give him the credit as a drummer that he really deserves. But if you go back and listen to Brand X and stuff like that, the guy is a fantastic drummer. And I missed that with him when we were out. I miss his drumming. But Nick is a real, boy, I'll tell you, the baton was passed and they're winning the race.
Let me ask you a question, music-wise.
No, I'm sorry, I'm through now.
I get you. I hear you. Talking about, No Jacket Required, and around that mid-'80s time frame where the 808, 909 are coming out. You got the Lindrum, Oberheim's putting out the Fairlight and all these things. It's like, as a musician, did that scare you?
No, it's another tool in the toolbox. I mean, to me, a Linn machine or any of those things, they're in my mind, they weren't there to replace anything. They were there to be another tool and another thing. Because I did a lot of stuff where they had programmed drums, yet we would have like Carlos Vega would be playing drums along with like some sequence stuff that they had done. I think the only thing that really bothered me when all of that stuff kind of came into being was that was really when you started gridding the songs out, when you really were starting to become slightly more mechanical, because certainly all the stuff we did throughout the late 60s, 70s and all that was all strictly field. There was no click. It was all real. Yeah, it was all real going on. And most of the players were so good that you could probably start a click track at the start of a tune, shut it off, and then turn it on at the end. Odds are it was probably pretty much there. When you were working with guys like Russ Kunkel and the Jeff Piccaros and Jim Keltners and all these guys.
Locked in.
But, I mean, a lot of people got hurt by that stuff. And a lot of that really started happening, I think, because producers were suddenly being given the budget for the album themselves, and they found it easier to program some stuff instead of hiring a bunch of people. They hired like one guy to do programming and then pocket the rest of the money themselves.
Right. So a guy like Mutt Lange can come in and bring his Fairlight and program all the bass instead of hiring a session guy.
Yeah. But the thing for me that I've always really tried to do, it's kind of like there's the term diversify, and I've always tried to do that in my career. When things slow down in the studio, then I'd hit the road, with somebody, and we'd be out on tour, and then you come back and jump back in, and I treated it where a lot of guys make the mistake of it. I treated it as a profession, which is what it is. So when I knew I was going to be going on the road, I would contact like producers that I normally work with and say, look, I'm leaving town at this point, and then I'll be back at this point. And sometimes they would bump a project up so that I could do it with them, or they would hold off until I got back, and I would start calling them like 2 weeks or so before the end of the tour to remind them when I'm getting back. Where some guys would just go on the road and never tell anybody, and they'd just be gone, and other people would get the calls then, and suddenly they're wondering why they're not getting called. But you have to treat everybody with respect, and it can all work.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, like everybody says, it's always about the hang 90% of the time. If you're good at your instrument, it's even better. But if you're gonna go and screw people over without even telling them you're out of town, or then you get upset when you're not getting called. Well, it's your own fault.
Yeah, it really is, but a lot of people just don't get it. I mean, that's the kind of stuff when I would do clinics, I would talk about things like that rather than a Mixolydian scale or something. I mean, you guys can all play, but here's, like if it's a 10 a.m. downbeat, you're not pulling in the parking lot at 10 in the morning. You've been sitting in your seat since 9:30. You're tuned. If there's charts, you've looked through them to see if there's anything to go over before you start working. And I mean, there's an etiquette to this that never gets taught in schools or anything like that. That is, I think, the almost more important. If you've got your chops up,
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I feel like that kind of goes with any job. You want to show up prepared.
Yeah.
Like me, I started my radio show at 7 o'clock. I'm not rolling in at 6:59 with nothing to say at 7.
Yeah. Yeah, you treat it as you with pride. Number one, this is your name is on it, so you want to have it reflect the best of what you can do, and whatever it takes to be prepared is really important to me. And a lot of people don't get that, but the longevity of their careers has shown that, because they didn't have it.
Well, a lot of people look at it as the music hobby, not the music business.
Yeah, that's always the case.
Yeah. Man, that's crazy. That's really interesting to hear your perspective on the whole digital versus, actual musicians playing in the 80s, because it really did change the scene. And even today, you listen to today's pop top 40 radio, and it's like, man, everything's just programmed. Nobody even knows how to do a scale anymore. You got these EDM producers programming, tracking up their bass lines and all this stuff. And it's like that organicness and the real musicianship, it's just gone.
Well, it's not gone, but you have to dig deeper for it. There's some amazing artists out there, and there's really great music being made. But there's a kind of the thing that bothered me so much about when this became sort of this digital computer world is it really allowed people into this business who really shouldn't be in it, because there's so many things you can do to fix your inadequacies. Where back when we were starting, man, that red light came on, your ass was on the line. You played, you performed. And now, you know, there's always that old joke, we'll fix it in the mix. Well, there's an element of that. If somebody can't sing in tune, they'll hire another engineer to sit for 2 weeks pitch correcting the vocals and, you know, quantizing a bad drummer. And it's just sort of sad. I get called sometimes to go in and replace bass parts on albums where, you know, the people have, they've signed a band because they looked a certain way or whatever.
Right.
But then when it came down to mixing their album, I get a call going, well, can you actually come in and learn all these parts, but play them right? And you're not going to get album credit. We'll just pay you. And I said, fine, you know, gig's a gig.
Yeah. That's crazy. And, you know, there's so many bands, like even still to this day. I mean, like late 90s, you had the Backstreet Boys. It was all Max Martin. Today, you got the BTS and it's Jenna Andrews in a studio writing it. You know, it's like, and then you got to get
the K-pop and all these things that are going on. I mean, to me, it's always kind of one of those things when you want to talk about music and the music industry, there's almost an oxymoron involved when you're talking music and you're talking the business side of it, because the business side can have very little to do with real music.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's where all the money is in it. You know, so it's, you know, the main thing for me is, and kind of, I say this a lot because because I'm old and I don't remember, I've already said it before, but, you know, but you don't want to become an old fart. I'm a realist about the business and the trends that it's gone through.
Yeah.
And I love working. So, you know, I get calls and most of the stuff I play to, you know, it's going to have a click track or some kind of sequence thing. And it is what it is. What my job then becomes is trying to make it feel as unprogrammed as possible by having a part that kind of just gives it a little bit of schmutz on it.
A little bit of grit on there. And you don't want to be one of those old salty bastards that used to be in the biz and they're on Facebook now just moaning about it.
Oh yeah, no, you don't want to be grandpa talking about in my day.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, that's why, like when I'm in the studio, if I'm working with a young group, and I still work with a lot of artists that are like in their late teens and 20s, and you don't want to sit there and talk about analog versus digital, because they've never heard analog.
They have no clue.
So but if they ask me about it, then I'm really happy to talk to them and run by and just to, you know, give them some sense of history of where all this comes from. Because a lot of people, you meet record executives at this point that don't know anything that ever happened before 2010. You know, so you know, they have no perspective. You talk the Beatles or anything, boy, you sound like you may as well be talking about Mozart.
Yeah. BTS is today's Salieri.
Exactly.
Well, talking about pre-2010, we're going to be celebrating Leo Sayer later this week. We're going to be chatting with him. Yes. And of course, you got to work with Leo. Can you share some memories of being with Leo back in the day in the studio and all those great records?
Well, I did one album as far as I remember with Leo, and I think we did it with Richard Perry producing at Richard's studio, which was Studio 55 or something like that. It was right next to Paramount Records. I always remember studios by the proximity of a good restaurant, and there was a place called Greenblatt's. Or Nicodell's, that was like 2 doors down, that had the best chopped salad I ever had in my life. And that's nice memories of sessions. But I always, at that time, we were doing Leo, we were doing the Pointer Sisters and different people at that studio. And I just found Leo to be such an engaging guy to hang with. He was really nice. He had really good songs, and he had that really beautiful voice. So I don't remember specific moments. If I looked at the album and saw who was on the dates, that might kind of rekindle some thoughts. But they're doing a big kind of a honoring like the 40th or something anniversary of the album that we did, and somebody just contacted me about it, being interviewed for it. But I really liked Leo, and the cover was just great on that album with him kind of up in the air, you know, his big fro and just jumping through the air. And I think he's living in Australia.
Yeah, he is in Australia. We have to do the interview at like 9 in the morning or something like that, which is like 12 hours later or something his time.
16 hours.
Yeah, because when I featured him on one of my YouTube shows, and he contacted me and said, "Oh, I saw it,
Mhm.
man. It was so great. Now, next time you're in Australia, we got to get together and stuff."
Yeah.
You know, the thing I've liked about this business, one of the best parts of it has been that as much as it's a business, there are so many artists that I worked with over the years that we've maintained friendships
Mhm.
that have kind of transcended that it was a gig. Where there's people I've worked with, you know, like with the immediate family. These are people I've been with over 50 years,
Yep.
yet we still feel as fresh together as ever. We're all still really good friends, and it's pretty remarkable. I don't know if there's that many opportunities in this world to have those kind of relationships. And you know, and I think about all the different people I've worked with over the years, and sometimes you don't see somebody for 10 years or 15 years, and the next time you bump into each other, you're like finishing the conversation you had
It's like
15
you
years
just picked
ago.
up where you left off.
And you pick right up and
Yeah.
stuff.
Wow. That's great.
That's great, though. I'm thrilled Leo's doing that with you.
Yeah, Leo's. I'm looking forward to it. I mean,
Yeah.
dude's a legend, so you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, 1976. I was around. You weren't, Jeremy. He dominated.
Nope.
It was him, Peter Frampton, and maybe Olivia Newton-John. They dominated 76.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't get around them. So,
See, and the thing to me is I've worked with all of them.
Mhm.
So, you know, I mean, they're all like amazing people. Frampton's still one of the best guitar players, and I love his singing. And Olivia was absolutely one of the nicest gals to be in the studio with.
Mm.
So it's
yeah.
it's an amazing community.
Yeah.
It really is. Let me just we have to wrap up in a second here, but your the self-titled album, The Immediate Family, actually came out on my birthday, so thank you for the
Happy
present.
birthday.
Thank you. It was a great album that came out in August. Was it a little bit different going from the section to the immediate family and putting yourself out there and not being the guys in the shadows? Was it just fun to sort of be, hey, let's be on the forefront here?
Yeah, it was slightly unintentional because it's the section and the immediate family are quite different musically.
Right.
I mean, having vocals and different, not, you know, kind of rock fusion, but the way we came together was Danny Korchmar got offered a record deal with Vivid Records in Japan to do a solo record, and he called myself and Russ Kunkel to see if we were around to do his album with him. He didn't think we were going to be because it was a time when normally everybody'd be on the road, but we got in the studio. He had met Steve Postel when he moved back here, and they had been doing some pre-production. And then it turns out that Waddy was on the road with Stevie Nicks, but he got back for the last day of it. When we finished the album, when he submitted it, the Japanese wanted to know what to call it, and it was going to be Danny Korchmar. But he said, these guys are my immediate family, so let's just call it Danny Korchmar and the Immediate Family. Then we toured Japan, and everything came back, and signed with Quarto Valley Records, and ended up signing as the Immediate Family. We finished this album before COVID hit, and we've been sitting on it. It was supposed to be out in November of last year, but it just seemed like that would be totally throwing it away. So it just came out, and we're getting ready to hit the road in November. And in the interim, we've gone back in the studio, and we're pretty much finished with another album, which will come out next year. And Denny Tedesco is in the process of editing the documentary movie they're making about us, and he's the one who did the Wrecking Crew movie. So there's lots going on with it. But the thing for me that's the greatest part of this whole thing is, man, when we play, I just look around, and these are guys I've been with for half a century.
Yeah.
And they're really calling it the Immediate Family was really the perfect thing, because
Totally, it's special.
Yeah, today's Russ Kunkel's birthday. I just wrote to Russ. I just got off the phone with Cooch talking about something else that we're going to do. I talk to Waddy all the time, and Steve. We have you know, when you hear about groups like the Eagles and CSN and the Everly Brothers, all these guys who couldn't stand each other, you know, it was a gig. And we just love hanging out together. We've never had fights or arguments, and the music just gets better all the time. And to be not, you know, I love working with our other artists, but to actually have the buck stop with us, like we're making the decisions, and it's the band that is the artist now.
Yeah,
it's great, it's wonderful. Yet I still love working with other people, so we're having the best of both worlds.
Well, that's awesome. And you know what? You're still having fun, which really is
love it.
the best part of the end of the day.
I absolutely love it.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, do you have the Frankenstein bass there with you?
If you'll wait 1 sec, I'll go grab it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah,
Mitch, of course, you know about the Frankenstein bass, right?
Of course. But the great thing though is his YouTube channel, and he's not here to hear this, but that YouTube channel is just so much fun. It's just great and educational. And we got a dog that's getting there.
Dog's barking. He knows the Frankenstein bass is coming. That's right.
I know.
Oh, look at there it is. Wow.
Oh,
wait, it's blurred. It's blurred. See, it's like looking at porn. It's blurred out.
What the hell's going on here?
It's bass porn.
It's the virtual background there.
It's like completely.
Oh, look at that.
What?
There you go.
Take a screenshot of that.
Oh, don't do this. This shouldn't be doing this.
It's doing it because of it's the virtual background that.
Yeah, hold on. Let me see if I can get rid of this background here.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know you guys.
That's the iconic bass, Mitch. I mean, jeez.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on 1 sec. Dark, light, skin tones, more settings.
Go to preferences and go to background. And you just
that's where I'm pulling it up. Background and filters.
Yeah, just hit it off for
none.
Yeah, there you go.
Look at that.
Boom. Nice. We can see. Oh, look at that.
So what? And it's.
Oh,
geez. So it's signed by like everybody that you've worked with, or like
not everybody, but it's like it's hard to see it on here.
Yeah.
But like right in here, George Lucas wrote "May the Force be with you," and then Peter Max put this little. It's hard to.
Oh yeah, okay.
I can see it now.
Tiny Saturn right there. Peter Max, the artist Peter Max put it. But I've got like Rocky Blyer and Lynn Swan from the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Nice.
That was the team back then.
Merle Haggard right here.
Merle.
Wow.
What it is this bass was never a real bass. This was a precision bass neck that I somehow got my hands on back in the early 70s. The body is from the company called Charvel. And this was originally a precision bass body. So the pickup would have been underneath this cover.
Right.
What we did was we ended up putting 2 sets of precision bass pickups where jazz bass pickups would have gone, but we reversed their position. This one, I'm doing this all backwards. This would have been here, and that would have been
the reverse
there. So we reversed them because I figured by the nature of the gauge of the strings to put the lower strings closer to the bridge would bring more clarity. And these are the very first EMGs Rob made when he started EMG.
Wow.
This is like the first prototype hip shot detuner on here to drop the E string to a D and then back up. And so this was really, I call it, and it's a misnomer to call it Frankenstein because Frankenstein was the doctor and the monster was the monster. But I kind of just call it that because this was really like lots of pieces that we put together.
Yeah.
Make a bass. This is the first bass I ever put mandolin frets on. And immediately fell in love with it, and every bass I have has mandolin frets on them.
Wow.
So we built this with John Carruthers here in town, who was the repair guy at Westwood Music, which was the LA watering hole for most of the players. We built this around 74, I guess. So this has been on 90% of everything I've recorded since 74.
Wow.
And I had a 62 jazz bass that I carved up. I call Peace Love because it's got peace signs and all this shit on it. And that's what I used on the early James stuff. I used that on Dr. My Eyes and on Billy Cobham's Spectrum and things like that. So,
all of that. So you built it in
I don't have a lot of instruments. I just have what I use.
Well, you know what? To be fair, once you find what you like, I mean, why use anything else?
Yeah.
You know? So you built that in 1974?
Tell that to Rick Nielsen of Cheap Trick.
Oh, yeah.
See, at least he put all of his into one body.
Yeah. He's got like, it's the five guitars in one.
Yeah. I love Rick, man. What a trip.
That's awesome.
Greatest.
Well, Lee, this was so great to meet you. Man, make sure you go pick up this brand new and subscribe to his YouTube channel because the videos up there are just
channel
ridiculous.
Is the greatest thing.
I just put up I think today was my
714.
Is 714. Yeah, I did Billy Thorpe yesterday.
Oh, that was yesterday. Yeah,
we had done Children of the Sun, and as I was perusing through, I found an Australian TV show of This Is Your Life, Billy Thorpe, where they had him on. So I thought, the hell with music today.
7:15. It was put up 6 seconds ago.
Okay, great.
And I'm your first view. Look at that. Boom. I just clicked it. First view. No views yet.
And the thing that's great is like watching that. One of the people who came on the show to wish him the best was an Australian artist named Tina Arena. And I just went back and looked and I went, oh, I worked with her. And I just pulled up. So I'm going to do the stuff I did with Tina Arena tomorrow. But I haven't missed a day since March 23rd of last year.
Well, keep it coming. Keep it coming. It's such a great channel. And you know, other than seeing your name on that film, no Jacket Required, that YouTube is just so engaging. You just sit there and you go, this is great. It's humorous, it's educational, it's a fun watch.
I'm really glad you're enjoying it. For me, it was an accident that the thing even started. I don't know what your time is like, if you guys have to sign off or not.
Oh yeah, we actually have to wrap, but we should do this again. We should.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it anytime you want to talk. There's lots of things to tell you about.
Yeah. The problem is that we have another interview we're 5 minutes late to, but the immediate family is out, or came out on August 27th. It was a birthday present to myself.
Happy birthday.
There you go.
Thank you so much. And Leland, yes, let's please do this again, because half an hour was criminal in terms of time.
Check with Lisa, Roy, my favorite, and we will set up another time and yak. I would love
absolutely.
Merci bien.
All right. Thanks.
Thank
See you later.
Cheers.
Okay. Take care, guys.